Let's start this section by taking an imaginary trip through time. First, let's go back about 200 years to about 1820. Imagine that we kidnap someone from that time and magically transport him back 2,000 years to the Roman Empire or 4,000 years to ancient China or Egypt. That person would have some difficulties adjusting because of differences in language, religion, and clothing. Otherwise, however, he'd find that things were not all that different than the world of 1820. Most people still grew their own crops and prepared their gardens by walking behind some animal which pulled a plow. Most people built their own homes themselves from naturally available materials, such as wood, stone, or mud bricks with thatched roofs. Most people provided their own medical care, clothing, and entertainment. Transportation was also the same. People either walked, rode on the back of an animal, rode in a cart pulled by an animal, or sometimes rode in a boat moved by paddles, oars, or sails. Malnutrition was a constant threat, and life expectancy at birth was between 30 and 40 years. Now let's take someone else from 200 years and move her only 200 years to the present day. She would find a world so entirely different that it would seem impossible and insane. She'd see huge buildings flying miles up in the sky, carrying hundreds of people at unimaginable speeds from one part of the earth to the other. Everything would seem to be happening incredibly fast. People could somehow talk with each other almost anywhere on the earth, even seeing each other through a window, although the other person might be in Europe or China, or even on the moon. Practically no one would produce their own food, clothing, housing, or medical care. Most people would seem to hardly do anything productive, yet almost everyone would seem incredibly rich. The strength of humans would hardly be used anymore because strange machines of all kinds would do almost all the work. Okay, we don't have robot disc jockeys yet, but our visitor from the past would see automated machines producing most of the world's goods and services. Machines would even be replacing parts of humans: arms, legs, ears, and eyes, even kidneys and hearts. Although hardly anyone worked at growing crops or animals, great quantities of food would be everywhere, and obesity would be a far more serious problem than malnutrition. Average life expectancy would have more than doubled, with many people living to be over 100. Our kidnapping victim would probably be so confused and frightened that she would just want to run away and hide. How could everything change so rapidly that if we took an old person who is living today and sent them back to the world of their youth, no one would believe them if they described the kind of changes to come? After thousands of years in which most people continued to live more or less the same kinds of lives, why should everything begin changing so rapidly everywhere? Our first response to that question might be that science and technology caused the changes. But whilst technology certainly has changed, many things we think of as being modern were actually invented long ago. Gunpowder, the rocket, the steam engine, the compass, the printing press, gears, and clocks were all invented 1,000 years ago or more. For some strange reason, these inventions were often ignored or forgotten. Why did the world begin changing so fast? It was because of specialization and trade. First, trade at the local level, then trade at the regional level, followed by trade in even larger areas. By now, most of the goods we buy every day are manufactured by specialists in other parts of the world. Of course, we pay for them by providing the goods and services that they consume. How could specialization in trade make such a huge difference? Let's consider the life of someone who plays games for a living. Tiger Woods. In his career, Tiger has earned over $1 billion. He earned most of that money by making commercials and endorsing products. Incredibly, he started playing golf before he was 2 years old. When he was 3, his father bought him his own set of golf clubs, but said he'd have to be responsible for cleaning those clubs every time he used them. Now, Tiger is not only great at playing golf, but he's also really good at cleaning his clubs. He can clean all of them in less than an hour. Tiger hires a caddy, but if the caddy cleans Tiger's clubs, it takes the caddy 2 hours to do it. An economist would say that Tiger has an absolute advantage at cleaning clubs over his caddy because he can clean them just as well, but in less time. Do you think that Tiger cleans his own clubs? Absolute advantage, the ability to do something faster than someone else, does not determine who does what. That is determined by something called comparative advantage. Let's look at how comparative advantage works. Let's say that Tiger earns on the average about $50,000 an hour. If he cleans his own clubs, then it will cost him $50,000 because he'll have to give up the opportunity to earn $50,000, making a TV commercial or doing something else. Tiger only pays his poor old caddy $200 an hour. We can assume that the caddy couldn't earn more than $200 an hour somewhere else, because if he could, he wouldn't be working for Tiger. If Tiger pays his caddy $200 an hour to clean the clubs, the caddy will earn $400. Tiger can go film a TV commercial and make $50,000 in the 1 hour he saves himself, so he ends up saving $49,600. Think about it. When Tiger and his caddy specialize in trade, they each come out much better off than otherwise. Specialization and trade is a win-win process. As a matter of fact, since participation in trade markets is voluntary, no one will take part in any trade unless they think they'll be doing better off. A person, company, or country has a comparative advantage over another if they have a lower opportunity cost. In other words, if what they have to give up to do it is less than what the other person or company would have to give up. The caddy doesn't have to give up the opportunity to make $50,000 elsewhere, so he has the comparative advantage at cleaning clubs, and he's the one who does it. That brings us to the principle of comparative advantage, which says each person or company is better off if they specialize in the activity where they have a comparative advantage. So, why are people so much better off today than they were 200 years ago? Mainly because of specialization based on comparative advantage and trade based on specialization. You may find this hard to believe now, but maybe the next video will convince you. I'll see you there.